Hey guys, Duke here. Welcome to my R5 raid guide. The key to raiding is ensuring that your team survives and the boss doesn't. Sounds simple enough, but how do you make sure that happens? Know thy enemy. Each of you fights one head of the boss. Each head has its own separate attack bar, and debuffs are shared except for bombs, and he's immune to dots. Every time you gain a turn, he gains a stacking buff that increases the damage of his next attack. HP-based attacks are mitigated, but they're still fairly strong, so don't be afraid to use those. All of his attacks are AoE. His main attack applies attack break, slow, and oblivious. That's why it's so important to have high resistance, especially on your cleanser and healers. Now, his second attack only targets a frontline. It ignores your buffs and does more damage to monsters with low defense. This is why it's essential that any monster you want to put in the front line has high defense. However, they also need to have high HP to survive the other 3 attacks, besides that second one. His third attack activates after you take 16 turns, and it removes buffs that you have, it heals him, it stuns you, and permanently increases his damage, so it's like an enrage. His fourth attack activates every time the boss loses 25% of his HP. He cleanses all debuffs on himself, increases his stats, and hits 1 extra time. So now let's just take a quick look at the team stats and runes while I explain what you need in a raid team. The first thing you need is a universal leader skill. All 3 of you should bring a different one because leader skills are shared. I have Tesarion here for resistance, and we also have speed and defense in this raid. HP is another very common one you'll see in R5. Crit rate and attack are not as common, but they can be useful to speed up the run if you have no problems with survival. Accuracy can also be useful because debuffs are very important. Now, speaking of debuffs, the most essential debuffs are attack, break, and heal block. You must have these up at all times. Very good debuffs include slow and defense break, slows the boss down and helps to kill him faster. Glancing and branding, these are useful, but not absolutely essential, especially because branding is not that common. Now, there are primary and there are secondary debuffers. Primary debuffers, they debuff on the very first skill. I have DS, Colleen, Hua, and Bella as my primary debuffers. It's nice to use revenge runes because they can counter with the debuff and it doesn't actually add to the boss's enrage counter. A secondary debuffer is somebody like Tesarion, for example, who breaks defense on his second attack. It's not as consistent, but still useful as a backup. You need to have typically at least 2 AoE healers. There are 2 types of AoE healers, smart and dumb. Praha, Ariel, and Bella are examples of smart healers who only heal when your team has taken damage. Colleen and Chasun are examples of dumb healers. These are healers who have a buff attached to their heal, and sometimes they're going to use that as a buff at full HP instead of as a heal. Regardless of what healers you use, you want to build them fast with high resist and max out their AoE heals if possible, the skill. It's nice to have 1 smart and 1 dumb healer, but you can have 2 dumb and still get by. You need to have at least 1 cleanser. Lisa, Delphoy, and Kona are 3 very common raid cleansers. You want to build them fast with high resist again, and they need their cleanse skill max for reduced cooldown. You're going to want to have a cleanser with only a 3 to 4 round cooldown. Lisa is nice because she has a primary debuff of glancing, Delphoy has the primary debuff of slow when she crits, and Kona is nice because she's farmable and also only has a 3 round cooldown on the cleanse. Delphoy actually has pretty nice stats for tanking frontline as well, if you happen to have her. Now, speaking of frontline tanking, you need to have 2 or more frontline tanks. DS and Ariel are common here. I'm using Tesarion. You need to build them with high HP and defense. For R5, typically it's around 1500 to 1800 defense and 25 to 30k HP. Again, if they have a debuff on skill 1, use revenge runes. Now, you don't technically need a dedicated nuker, but it's useful to kill the boss faster. Hua is a good one because she provides debuffs as well as a leader's skill. Selfish one would be somebody like Trevor, who doesn't provide any debuffs and doesn't provide a leader skill. It's nice to build them slow if you can, because it will help to reduce the boss from enraging by not getting too many turns. A couple more random tips. It's nice to be able to switch out leader skills if you have more than one universal leader skill, so you can join more raid groups. You also want to first work on building a slow and safe team that will simply survive the last 25%, and then build in more and more damage to make the run faster. And finally, be patient with yourself as well as with your teammates, because even a perfectly built team can fail due to bad RNG. So I hope you found that useful. Please like if you did, subscribe to keep them coming, and best of luck with your own raid.